All right, folks, it's time for the media show. We're going to have a very enlightening and enriching conversation, including some of the things that are happening right here on Pod TV and all along those lines. I definitely know that our lovely social media site is being developed and is being developed rapidly and all in that kind of way. It is definitely having some great conversations around that. And we do know that the writer's strike is still continuing as well. So going to bring in Rick Rosner as well as others that will have some thoughts about what is taking place in that world and what is going on in that space. And of course, they've got some amazing folks that are doing amazing things and all along those lines. As a matter of fact, I've got two folks that have got new shows that are on the air. Rick Rosner has got his show that is airing on a regular basis in the evening time. And of course, folks are enjoying hearing him and Lance have their regular debates about political issues. And I think we're going to be doing a recording later this week to get some more episodes for you as well. So folks are definitely enjoying that conversation, some political banter, some social banter, and definitely other things, including that performance. As I have jokingly said, it's like watching the come of the great news shows like Point Counterpoint meets Laughing and all in that space, because we do have some entertainment, even though Rick says that their entertainment might have been more high quality and all in.
Oh yeah, no, our show is just chaos.
Chaos is allowed. We like chaos. And, the opposite of that is Jim Eads' show, which is Change Your Mind, which is trying to get people to have a understanding that in all of this chaos that is called the world, we can actually agree to disagree and all in that space. So he is showing people that it is all right to have different viewpoints and all in that kind of way. And he's actually had some very interesting interviews. I know the second episode was just him kind of giving a outline of what the show was all about, and then he had a fantastic interview in that first show and all in that space. So definitely I'm glad to see that that is going well. And of course, we've got the boss lady here, and then the boss man will be joining later on, but we've got Kim Calhoun that is here with us as well. And we've also got a person that is discovering the power of polls, because every time I turn around, people used to tease me about doing polls, but every time I turn around, Lee Newton Rhodes has got another one going on as he continues his effort to become the next president of the United States as a third-party candidate and all along those lines. So he is.
Well, wait a minute. I think, aren't you running on the Democratic Party?
As of now, yes, and I got my reasons. This is true. Historically, I've discounted the third party, but with no labels, I may reconsider. Because both parties now are cratering with Trump on the Republicans and Biden on the Democrats. People are really, this time more so than historically, looking for a third party choice.
They are. They really are. I think it would be a good direction to go into. And I think it's the youth, the younger people who are just sick and tired of the old way of running business, and they see the downfalls that it has created. I think the younger people are going to step up to the plate.
Kim, I agree with you with the younger people, but I also agree with you, Mid-America. Forget the coastal cities. Mid-America is fed up with the way Washington has treated them. Rick, what do you want to say?
I just wanted to say that it's hard to know what people think, because polling has become increasingly unreliable, because people don't want to answer polls. You have to, let fewer than 1% of the people you contact will respond to the poll, which raises the risk that only crazy people are responding.
Plus, because of the time element. But on LinkedIn, it takes 30 seconds. You're in and you're out, if that much.
But there's one other thing that's going on with polls, is that far-right pollsters have figured out how to put their thumb on the scales, and they poll more frequently, and they use landlines, and they do all sorts of things that favor, that bias it towards the right.
100%, which is why online, I think, is the way to go. Landlines are biased because people are giving up their landlines.
With us as well.
They've been sending me poll requests on my iPhone. Like, I don't even know how they got my phone number, because this phone I don't really give out to anybody.
Random.
Except, family and, immediate or emergency type things. And I was shocked to start getting these polls. And I'm like, the phone company sold my number out. But I think, Rick, you might be onto something there, but I also think that they're being a little tricky, and they might be saying, "Hey, we're with the Biden party," but they're really with the other party. So I think that they're not on the up and up. And when they text me, I go, you know what? I don't want either of those guys on the ballot. So just go away. Go away.
There is one way to take advantage, which is to bet left. If you're a gambler, you can make money betting toward leaning left on your betting, because people on the right are bad at math, and they will make bad bets which raise the odds on the left side. In the last 2 elections, I've made a few bucks just betting on Biden and other Democrats, because so many right wingers make bad bets that they change the odds in left wingers' favor.
Yeah, and speaking of math and money, Sasha Starr has joined us all the way from Canada. He also hosts a brilliant investing show during the week and a chess show, which is also, to me, very analytic. Welcome, Sasha.
Thank you. And I must now admit that in the last 6 months, I've made a profit of 153%, and Jim can verify every stock and options that I've done during this 6 months. Is that correct, Jim?
I have been listening to you, and it's all been green as far as Sasha's portfolio is concerned.
Wow. Congratulations, Sasha. I tell all of my kids about your show, because they're always coming to me, and I leave it up to somebody else to do for me. But they always come to me, "Oh, how would you do this?" And I'm like, just watch the TV show. Just watch Sasha's show, because you do talk about these things. You talk about what to invest in. I remember you even got me to where I went out and registered so that I could do my own trading, put my money into the account. But it's for some people. But, there's a younger generation out there that needs to learn. And what happened to Mark?
I don't know.
So anyway.
I think he went trading.
Yes.
He was trading.
He just got a hot
there.
He's trading. he's going back to watch the shows.
You want to invest, especially if you're young, because you have a long timeline to withstand any, market fluctuations. But you also want to make sure that your money that's not invested is earning interest now that bank accounts are paying interest. Some banks are still getting away with paying you like 0% when you can be making 5%.
Well, some of them are requiring you to buy into a CD of some kind, or something where you got to kind of lock it down for a couple months. There are some that are doing short term, and 4.5% to 6% is what I've been seeing lately, which is not a bad deal. I mean, if you just want to take a chunk of change and put it in there, I mean, that's at least money. You're right, working for you.
It all depends. It all depends.
Yeah.
You can compare it with 150% in 6 months. Whatever
bank Sasha, I'm going to call a friend of mine who her daughter is like saving up all her money. She moved back home, and she's like working 2 or 3 jobs, saving up her money to pay off her student debt. And then she's going to go about her career. And the girl has done awesome, but she hasn't like invested her money. She just keeps putting it in the bank. But to me, that's still brilliant. And I think very honorable on her part, because I think it's close to $100,000. But literally, she graduated last year, and that's all she's been doing is work and save, work and save. For the young people out there, if you learn to take a little bit of money, $100 a week when you're very young, and then keep, kind of grow it as you get older and make more money, put it into these investments, you'll retire way before 50. Or you can. And I didn't learn these techniques until later in life, but I wish somebody had taught me how to do this. But let's get back into talking about the media a little bit. Can somebody give me an update on the strike? Does anyone know what's going on with the writers' strike?
Last week, the Directors Guild made a deal, but they're kind of special. I mean, if you're a director, you're Hollywood royalty. Whereas in Hollywood, writers are traditionally looked at as schmucks with typewriters. That's the.
They need to start writing that directors are schmuck.
It's just, there's an old
Seriously.
joke
They
about
hold the pen.
there's a 100-year-old joke about the starlet who was so dumb that she slept with a writer to get it.
That's a good one.
So SAG voted nearly 98% in favor of going out on strike. They're not on strike yet, the Screen Actors Guild.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of that over the weekend. I read some news on that. So
They will probably strike, and now is the time for them to strike, because without the writers writing stuff, the actors might as well go on strike too and get what they want, because there will be no material for them to act in. So everybody should be on strike at once.
well, and I agree with you on that. Like when we had to deal with a strike many years ago, I was a small telephone company, but we interconnected with the big ones who were union. We weren't, so we could always run anytime we wanted. I never had to worry about strikes, but and we treated our people great. But the telephone companies that we were interconnected with, when they went on strike, we had nobody to run some of our interconnections up in New York and New Jersey. I mean, the whole telecom part went down up there. So I'm like, okay, guys, pack up your stuff. We're going on vacation. And I took the whole, office and everybody, we went on vacation, held our meetings, took some classes, but we couldn't get anything done either. So, and we had to wait until they negotiated their deals out, which in telecom, it kind of goes fast because, very important services rely on it, the EMTs, first responders and stuff like that. So they can't be down long. So it was like a week and then we were back up, but I said vacation. So
with the writers, they're going to be on strike for a long time because you were saying, people were inconvenienced, but the studios have a lot of material that they can people won't start getting frustrated until they run out of material, and they've got a whole summer's worth of material.
Well, and
they can plug the gaps for a while with crappy reality shows. So the last strike went for 14 weeks, more than a quarter of a year. And this strike won't be over until, I think, September at the earliest.
Well, this is what I tell people now. Now is the time to strike. If you want to start a show and get something up on air that's going to be different, refreshing from some of those reruns that people are having to watch, now's the time to do it. Here at Pod TV, we're very open to any content like that. And Rick, you started one for the nighttime show, Naked at Night, which I find very entertaining. And I like the fact that, we get to see some artwork being done, the conversations, and I think Mark enjoys it. So, but have any of you guys watched it? Yay!
I have not.
So
it's a mess, but you can tolerate it in small doses.
It comes in small doses. You guys film it all at once, right? But we distribute it in one night a week at 11 o'clock every night, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It will be aired. I think we air it more than once. We do it as a rerun another hour during the evening. And I think we're looking at, because it's pretty clean, even though we call it Naked at Night.
We did a 3-hour taping and I only said 3 bad words, I think, which is good for me.
Good discipline.
Very good discipline. But
Lance is an artist. He's very Trumpy. He listens to 50 hours of conservative podcasts a week while he's doing his art. So he's completely brainwashed in right-wing stuff. I'm very liberal. Lance draws me or paints me, and I yell at him while he's doing. We yell at each other and then we have some music.
Yeah, and I caught that you had a guitar player on there one night.
Yeah, that's JD. He is our director, cameraman, cinematographer, editor. Well, Mark's editing it now, but in the old days, before we were on your channel, he was our editor too.
A one-man band.
He's very talented.
Very talented to do all of that. And he does a good job playing the guitar too. Folks, welcome Jatovi. Hi, Jatovi. He's all the way from Durham, North Carolina. He also hosts Gamers Den and gets involved with all kinds of community programs. You also host out there at the Durham Bulls Park games and sometimes the hockey games. Well, I guess hockey's over now. So how's it going, Jatovi?
Pretty good. How's everybody else doing?
I'm wondering why you're wearing a Dolphin shirt.
I'm a Miami Dolphins fan. That's why.
So who are you rooting for tonight?
Well, the two teams that are playing, Denver and Miami, I'm a fan of both teams.
Oh.
Had it been LA, I would have hated for LA to win. I would have hated for, some of the other teams to win. But no, Denver I'm good with, and Miami I'm good with. Denver should probably close it out tonight because
I'm hoping so. They've never won it. I'd like to see them win it.
Yeah. And plus, Nikola Jokic is a really good guy.
Unbelievable.
And the way he plays the game and the way the team plays the game, it's phenomenal.
I was telling my wife, tell me if I'm wrong or not, that in general, pro sports, there's less like having a girlfriend in every city. That seems like a 1970s thing when people wore fur coats. Is that true, or am I just missing a lot of stuff?
Women fall for men in suits. Women fall for men in
uniform
and all this other stuff. These players know that. They know that they're stars. So has it gone away? No. There's still players that have women in every city they go to. There's still players that have women in every state that they go to or every country that they go to. No, I mean, it's
every dock.
But it seems you look at like LeBron has never done that, and Djokovic.
Well, it's not every player though.
No.
But don't the smarter players realize it's more trouble than it's worth?
It's not the smarter player. It's just dependent upon the player that's there. Like, for example, LeBron James is a family man. He decided that's what he's doing. Nikola Jokic, family dude, decided that's what he's doing. But then you have other players out there that, hey, it's there. So what if I've got a family? I'm still going. It's being tossed my way for free, so I'm gonna take advantage of that. You have other players.
Is it really for free at the family's expense?
I mean,
I don't think they think about the consequences at the time. I think they don't use their big brain.
I mean,
they're not thinking with the brain.
Yeah, I mean, they're just going out, and yes, in all honesty, it is for free. I mean, if there are women that are going to give that man that opportunity to take advantage of them and not have repercussions.
Well, Sasha and I.
There are some women taking advantage of them and going, "Look who I slept with."
Exactly.
Oh my God, he's with me. I'm having a good time.
Yes.
So the thing with that's a rarity more so than it is anything. It just goes into the how. It is a male-dominated, heavily testosterone environment. It's a rarity that women are taking advantage of the men more so than the men are taking advantage of the women.
Well, when the women who do this, is it because the guy is famous or because he's 6'8" with 4% body fat?
You've got a million different things. You've got the 4% body fat. Oh, he's sexy. Oh, he's famous. Oh, there's power. There's a possibility of money. There's a possibility of, just tons of things. Oh, he's going to sweep me off my feet. And that's the man I've always been in love with. Oh,
don't get Sasha and I started on the chess groupies, though. Because we.
Oh, yeah. See?
Oh.
Do the women throw themselves at you?
Oh, every city we go to. Oh, it's embarrassing. And
But we do know playing
the chess
a lot of calories.
Chess groupies, I got in it for the women and I was misinformed.
I've never seen a fat chess player. So, I mean, we know that I've researched this once that you burn a lot of calories playing chess.
ESPN ran an article, the Grandmaster Diet. And it's
Yeah,
because
there you go.
we burn a lot of calories while we were over
You
the board.
do.
Yeah. So
I mean,
what
I
people-
could not believe it. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's that stargaze moment. Girls want to be accepted by a prince. We always hear these stories of Prince Charming. Well, they idolize these guys that are up here as if they're a prince. And I really think, not that I've ever went through that, because I met my prince when I was 17, but I just think that that's what the women do. They see.
Hey, it was in high school, man. Nobody was hanging around the chess club. They were all going out with the football players. Come on.
That's
Football
all
players.
that is part of it. The stargaze, everything is part of it. It's not just one thing, it's a multitude of things.
Well, yeah, I mean, but stargazing, I mean, when you add all up the package of the guy that's there, he becomes that prince. He becomes like, he's got the money, he's got the status, he's got the body, he's got the money, everything. And I think it's that, I want to be with this guy because he is considered royalty in many ways. But
it's a multitude of things, because I mean the prince idea is, I don't know if it's the prince idea per se that we want to wrap it into a nutshell in, but again, you have women that fall in love with the guy because he's rich. If you look at some of the rappers that are out there, some of the singers, some of the different artists, they're not handsome people. If you take away the money, they're pretty ugly. So
with the pro golfers,
Yeah, but it's that whole gangster
Whoa.
mentality.
No,
Some people want that
just-
gangster mentality. Y'all were talking earlier, and that's the reason I was trying to find it, because actually Shaquille brought up this very interesting video that he shared with me that is British humor. But I would love to hear y'all's thoughts about it, because I had brought up a poll that happened recently where in Germany they were talking about that apparently a majority of the men there have some very toxic masculinity kind of attitudes, and there was a poll that was there, and then I said that there was like, they asked 1,000 men and they asked 1,000 women, and all in that space. So they were asking these folks about the nature, and when I saw that, I'm like, that's 2,000 people. Germany is a very big country, not as big as the United States, but still a big country. 2,000 does not seem like a lot of people to be a poll sample. But that being said, Shaquille shared this video that I was going to share and see what people think about this particular.
We'll put it back up. Is it ready to go?
It's ready to go.
All right. Where did it go? There you go.
Ready? Go.
Go.
But that silly grand design. Bernard, that was precisely what you had to avoid. How did this come about? I shall need a very good explanation.
Well, he's very keen on it.
What's that got to do with it? Things don't happen just because prime ministers are very keen on them. Neville Chamberlain was very keen on peace.
He thinks it's a vote win.
That's more serious. Done. What makes him think that?
Well, the party have had an opinion poll done. It seems all the voters are in favour of bringing back national service.
Well, I have another opinion poll done showing the voters are against bringing back national service.
We can't be for it and
Oh, of
against.
course they can, Bernard. Have you ever been surveyed?
Yes. Well, not me, actually. My house. Oh, I see what you mean.
Well, Bernard, you know what happens. Nice young lady comes up to you. Obviously, you want to create a good impression. You don't want to look a fool, do you? So she starts asking you some questions. Mr. Woolley, are you worried about the number of young people without jobs?
Yes.
Are you worried about the rise in crime among teenagers?
Yes.
Do you think there's a lack of discipline in our comprehensive schools?
Yes.
Do you think young people welcome some authority and leadership in their lives?
Yes.
Do you think they respond to a challenge?
Yes.
Would you be in favor of reintroducing national service?
Oh, well, I suppose I might.
Yes or no?
Yes.
Of course you would, Bernard. After all you've told you can't say no to that. So, they don't mention the first 5 questions, they publish the last one.
Is that really what they do?
Well, not the reputable ones, no, but there aren't many of those. So, alternatively, the young lady can get the opposite result.
How?
Mr. Woolley, are you worried about the danger of war?
Yes.
Are you worried about the growth of armaments?
Yes.
Do you think there's a danger in giving young people guns and teaching them how to kill?
Yes.
Do you think it's wrong to force people to take up arms against their will?
Yes.
Would you oppose the reintroduction of national service?
Yes.
There you are, you see, Bernard. The perfect balanced sample. So, we just commissioned our own survey for the Ministry of Defense. See to it, Bernard.
Yes, but what about the broadcast?
When's he expecting to do it?
I don't know, sometime next month, I suppose.
Well, perhaps you'll tell him it'll be in 11 days' time.
11 days? That's a bit soon. Suppose he refuses.
Well, then you can tell him that we just learned from the Joint Broadcasting Committee that the opposition will be holding a party political in 18 days' time, and he's entitled to get his ministerial in first. Of course, if he wishes the first political broadcast of his
Yes, we do.
premiership to be given by the opposition, that's fine.
Say what?
Is that true?
It will be.
I'm
If you
gonna
don't
bring
mention
you
it
up.
till tomorrow.
But he could still announce his new policy.
Yeah.
I don't think
I was
so,
waiting for the-
Bernard. He'll have only one meeting with his cabinet colleagues in the Overseas Policy and Defence Committee to clear it.
I understand all his cabinet colleagues are in favour of it.
Yes, but only personally, Bernard, only politically. But are they in favour officially, as responsible departmental ministers?
Oh, I see. I suppose that will depend on the advice they get, will it?
I was just looking at this kind of thing with polls about gay marriage this morning, because later on we're going to be talking about how Trump is doing in the polls and how Biden's doing in the polls, and just how the parties are doing in general. And the percent of Americans who are in favor of gay marriage can vary from 71% to 58%, depending on how the question is asked.
There you go.
And ditto for how well Trump is doing, where I've seen him with 25% net disapproval, and I've seen him with 0% net disapproval, depending on how the survey's done and who's doing it.
Well, this isn't new information. I mean, we've known this for a long, long time, that surveys are biased and can be biased. You know, there are some that have good reputations and others that don't.
But I think they're in the past 2-3 years, I think they've gotten worse
I agree with
because
that.
it's tougher to get people to respond to
That's
surveys.
why. That's one reason why. Yeah.
And because some survey companies are putting them out for political purposes. In 2022, there was there were right-leaning survey companies who were saying, that red wave, and doing that, people think, in order to demoralize left-leaning voters, which isn't to say that
Rick, are you saying they're making the questions because they have a predetermined result they want to get?
It's confirmation bias. Yes.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it, James.
Yeah. And it's, it's been in works, but people have perfected it over the years. I mean,
You think that they've ever got all the answers in and then changed the question?
Oh, I don't know if it's that rude.
I always wonder how they pull some of this stuff.
Jim, you should know on LinkedIn, though, they do not allow you to edit your question.
Right.
Once you put it
on
up,
LinkedIn, they don't.
But
They
if
do
you
not.
if you throw up a survey on the internet, on LinkedIn, then you get self-selected survey responders, which is its own source of error, because people who decide to take a survey are generally minority people.
How do you think social media in itself plays a role in some of their poll collection? I mean, do you think it's as big as getting it from people's phones?
Well, I don't think MySpace is a factor
Well, there are
anymore.
You have to if you can read about the methodology. In the old days, you just called people up and you tried to call a representative sample of the population. Now people aren't answering their phones, or they don't have landlines. So pollsters are going to panels. People they've recruited a representative sample of the population, and they poll these same people over and over.
We call these focus groups.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that whole focus group idea. But one of the other things I was getting ready to ask, and I'd love to hear people's thoughts about it, because there's another article that I had that I was going to bring to people's attention. But there has been efforts, and I know we're part of it, to change the narrative within social media and the social media landscape. But there is actually a former Meta employee, a whistleblower, that is claiming that tens of millions of people could die in the coming years if social media isn't overhauled. So that is actually what Frances Haugen is saying, and all in that space. So she told the the Sunday Times that tens of millions will die if social media isn't overhauled. And of course, she is the one that leaked those internal Meta documents, which show the company.
Die of what? What will kill them?
Misinformation.
Isn't it causation, Mark?
So that's what I'm trying to find out. She said
So what you're saying is, so social media will, like it did with COVID, give people bad information, and people will make bad health decisions.
That's the basis of the argument about this. I'm not sure how much validity it has, but the question is as always, is what is the source of the information that you're acting upon, and do you scrutinize it? Do you compare it? Do you compare it to something else?
And do you have a doctor that you bounce it off?
Or something like that.
Right. Yeah, well, I mean, some of the articles that I'm reading that says that the Journal reported that Meta downplayed Instagram's effect on teenagers' mental health, and Facebook helped spread religious hatred over there in India. And now, of course, she's trying to make her money and everything by writing a memoir. But she writes that Meta's profits were contingent on no one knowing how large the gap between Facebook and Instagram's public narratives and the truth had grown. And she says that the only way to change that is to overhaul our understanding of social media. So
that's above and beyond the misinformation. So that's a good point, Mark. Hey, Lee, you mentioned LinkedIn a couple of times, and it seems to be a very kind of it's not one of these social networks that pits people against each other. It doesn't seem prone to terrible arguments and all that kind of stuff. Why do you think it's a little bit more of a safe space?
One reason is because for those who do go there, LinkedIn will just restrict their accounts. And much more than other platforms. That's what I found.
I see.
I think LinkedIn is more sane because it's boring. So it takes out all the lunatics.
Honestly, I would say
it used to be that way, Rick. Not anymore. Now they're very up for politics and things.
It's more professionals. It's more about your job, your career, and people don't want to embarrass themselves by taking on some of the sides that they banter with on Facebook. I think that they reserve those heated discussions for a different platform.
I enjoy it more.
Because I don't want somebody to look on LinkedIn and see it, right? So,
Kim, I found a lot of people will disagree. But they'll be civil more so than let's say Facebook.
Well, because you're being watched by your work peers. You're being watched by people who will potentially hire you or fire you or, might engage you for business, So I just think that it's strictly professional, and people keep it.
Is that civility brought about because there are consequences and repercussions for your actions?
Absolutely.
Partly, yes. That's a good point.
It is 100%. Are you going to go on LinkedIn and bash people risking a potential job opportunity? No.
Well, not only that, but I don't know. I'm thinking that most people, including the folks that are hiring, are quicker to look at LinkedIn than they are Facebook. And I could be wrong about that, but I do know that a lot of times even the resumes that are given out are LinkedIn resumes and things along those lines. So I think that there are certain social media sites that are more prone to conversations, more prone to family dialogue, more prone to a number of other things that aren't as relevant to the employer as, say, a LinkedIn or even a LinkedIn competitor like Alignable, because I do find
just a question, like if you're doing this poll gathering on social media sites, like there are some sites that are more left-sided and others right-sided. You've got Parler. I don't even know if they exist anymore. And then you've got Rumble and a couple of other. And when people collect on those sites, it's going to be weighted heavier in that particular party favor. So I just, I think social media is going to play a big factor in the elections coming up. I think people are going to it's going to go into social media big time. And I think it's going to be bigger than the media itself.
The question is because you bring up a great point. Of course, LinkedIn, there are more repercussions to what you do on LinkedIn than there are on Facebook. Same thing with the other, it is chat, but the other applications as well. The problem with social media is that it creates your own particular bubble. So when you jump on social media and do, say for instance, if I did a poll on my site, it would be completely different than what Lee would get in terms of the individuals that visit Lee's site. Not saying that there's anything wrong with it, it's just
because the people who follow you.
Exactly. So we create our own bubbles in those social media sites. How do we burst those bubbles? And that would be that overhaul that we need to create repercussions and burst those bubbles, because that's where misinformation when it becomes an echo chamber, you don't hear anything.
The propaganda goes rampant in those bubbles. It's disgusting.
I'm sorry. There's a saying that the last person to understand all of science was Ben Franklin, and he's been dead for more than 200 years. But that saying says that there's so much information out there that no one person can adequately digest or understand it anymore. And of course, it gets worse every day.
Science was understandable when there wasn't that much of it.
What's that?
Science was understandable when there wasn't that much of it.
Right, but now there's so much of everything that we have no choice but to end up in bubbles, and we will have to turn to AI information curators to inform us, which is just another form of a bubble. The deal is that civilization has gotten too complicated for individual humans to understand, and we're kind of screwed.
Well, what's really interesting about the whole AI thing, remember when the news hit about AI? AI's been out for a while. They've been using AI for a long time. There's always been that battle for AI. But when that news really broke, when Chat GPT went live and Bing tried to do theirs, and but people forget that when Google had their AI doing artwork, it was demonic. It was really, really disturbing what you saw. And then when people got really freaked out when they started hearing the communication back and forth, when there was that Bing AI going back telling the guy that he should divorce his wife and marry the AI system. So if you think about the way AI is and how it's building its own bubble based on the information that we provide on our different networks that are out there, and how it becomes so disturbed so quickly. I mean, it's kind of creepy to think of the bubble that you're talking about, Rick, that's going to be created based off of AI.
Yeah, we're right now we're in the dumb AI era. If you turn to AI to write something for you, it'll write something that's grammatically okay, but it won't have any insight. It'll just kind of throw it'll throw a bunch of cliches at you. So AI is dumb right now. Like when you look at self-driving cars, they don't work right now. They crash, they kill people. They're worse than human drivers. And the question is, will AI become smart in the next 5 or 10 years? And at that point, become really scary.
Rick, Sasha can back me up on this, but in the 1980s, they had chess playing machines, and they were a joke. They were terrible. And in the early 90s, I played a Sperry Univac, a computer that was running a program from Bell Labs, the best software program running on a Sperry Univac, which NASA used, the fastest computer that they had. And I won the match, 1 win and 1 draw. And by 5 years later, I could buy a software product off the shelf that could beat me, that I could not beat. And by the end of the decade, the computers could beat the world champion. So it was a very fast process between when they were a joke and when they were better than any of us.
I mean, you got AI that's passing medical and bar exams.
Mhm.
It's scary.
Yeah.
But
Very
the way
scary.
the reason AI is successful when it's successful is huge data sets. When ChatGPT writes a thing for you, it's basing what it's writing on billions of writing samples that it's seen. When a chess program kicks your ass, it's because the chess program has the computing power to look at, I don't know, tens of thousands of different matches, hundreds of thousands.
So what's really cool, there's a
The speed of the chips that made it.
I cannot remember the company that the name of the company here in this area. I think it's single store, it might be. But what they were working on, because we were working together on doing some esports stuff, one thing they were doing is predictive software. So basically, they were able to predict the next move of the individual based off of billions of data and gameplay that people have done. So they can predict in a video game. League of Legends was the one that they used. League of Legends is the closest related esports or closest related video game to chess besides going into chess in terms of the actual mental capacity and capabilities. But yeah, they were able to predict exactly the next move by a player based on the software. And they were able to help out people trying to call the games by telling them, well, they'll probably do such and such, use this and use that based off that predictive software.
Jota, it's so wonderful, but I want to tell you something. In the democratic chess which I invented, no one can predict the next move of Grandmaster which will be made. All this computer software and artificial intelligence, they're all useless, absolutely. No move can be predicted.
I can vouch for that. I've seen that in action.
Sasha, in terms of predicting or in terms of being successful in the match?
Predicting what I will play, for example.
Gotcha.
So, Rick, why haven't they decided to start using AI to replace the writers?
No, they have. That's the studios. According to what I've heard, I was on the picket lines, I don't know, like 8 days ago, and was told that the studios don't even want to negotiate limitations on AI. Now, the people who run studios and writers, most of these people, aren't experts in AI. And so everybody looks at AI and thinks, well, this is just going to get more and more powerful. And the writers say, well, we have to fight it off or we're going to get our butts kicked. And the studios are saying we have to keep our right to use AI because this might be a way to just, not pay writers anything and just keep making shows. But I think there's something called Forever Seinfeld that you can track down. And it's AI that's taken all the Seinfeld scripts, mushed them together, and will just keep generating like new Seinfeld scripts. And you can just watch Seinfeld or read Seinfeld forever based on predictive AI. And, they won't be the best scripts in the world and you'll get bored with them, but it's still, if you love Seinfeld, and they can do that for any show. I'm sure they could generate forever Star Trek.
Kramer is going to burst through the door.
They could keep Star Trek going until we really go out there.
Aren't they doing that already?
But we're not going out there. When you look at what's happened in the past 30 years, 50 years, when we were kids, we used to get excited about space. Now people could give a crap about space. We're more excited about inner space, the computer space that we have on our phones. The personalized info. The future is not. Space will always be there, but the future is information and computing. That's what we find delicious. Humans will keep gravitating towards the media that give them the heaviest flow of new information. That's how we evolved, and that's how we're going to continue to culturally evolve.
Well, there's also this idea, and I know that it's not popular in many circles, but there are people that are doing inner work on themselves because we all have born with this innate wisdom that we've not been taught on how to connect to. And so many of us are disconnected from it. But there's a growing movement throughout, at least I know I'm in California, so maybe I'm talking from a California base, but I've seen it in many countries where people are starting to think, hey, look, maybe I'm going to meditate for half an hour in the morning, start my day with getting grounded, and then I could be my best self. And there's another focus on this that's happening simultaneously to the people that are constantly distracted with their phones. And this constant distraction, I've always thought of it as the enemy, because chess is basically a game of contemplation where you're sitting quietly and thinking, it's the same thing with meditation. You're sitting quietly and you're contemplating. And the contemplative life is not necessarily going to make any money. So it's not considered a very important activity. But yet I think that there's been some pushback from that kind of person that's taking, and they're finding that it's making people live happier lives when they do that. But
you need discipline to do that. It's the same way over the past 50 years, food, because of food science, has gotten more delicious. If you look at what people ate in the 40s and 50s and 60s, it was gross and it didn't taste very good. In fact, in the Depression, there were recipes
more gruel, please,
that were gross on purpose because people couldn't afford to eat more. So they made this noodle loaf that tasted bad, but it kept you alive, but you wouldn't eat so much because it sucked. But now food is super delicious, and 2/3 of Americans are overweight. And it's the same thing with information. Information is delicious now. There's so much great TV. There's so much great stuff on our phones that most people don't have the discipline to put themselves on information diets.
I learned something over the weekend from one of my doctors that we actually are getting like the sun rays, but it's coming from our phones and our computers, and it's actually causing our skins to develop what will become skin cancer in the future. And they said that we need to start wearing SPF in front of the screens and in front of our phones. Wow. And I'm like, that's crazy. I mean, we don't get sun to begin with. Like, we get no sun absorption at all. That's why we're told I was told why people get depressed nowadays is we don't get out. And when we do, we're slathered with SPF. So we get no sun. But but now they're saying that these devices cause the same kind of skin damage as the sun.
They also disturb your sleep, the wavelengths of light.
Yes, they do.
Coming off, trick your brain into thinking it's still daytime. And also, not only, so your sleep is disturbed. And also, if you love your information, you might be getting up every couple hours just to check your feeds.
Yep.
No, but Rick, isn't that something that a lot of people have been pushing for? Because a lot of people I know will literally make sure that they have no devices in their sleeping area for exactly the reason that you're talking about. Because a lot of people are concerned that you have to have some downtime away from the devices. So I do know.
Again, that's discipline that a lot of people don't have. That I want to see when I wake up to pee, I will probably also go look at Twitter. Yeah, even though it's 3 in the morning.
One of the things I learned to do, because sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night, and the first thing was for me to flip my phone to see what time it was. And then you would see, there were messages that came in, and you never go back to sleep.
Now you're awake.
I can't even flip my phone now to see what time. I do keep it by the bed for emergencies, but sure. I'll look at the clock. I put a little clock up on my dresser, and I'll look at that instead because it was just too consuming once I looked at it. And so you're
I've been there, Kim. Right. You're not alone. That's
a lot of people are not alone. Quick question, because a lot of people, and we kind of alluded to it before, are using so much of this information, and a lot of it is misinformation as well. Because I do know that there's even been some people. There was actually a Georgia politician recently that came out with some statements about the abundance of globes, and it was actually kind of make the argument that the Earth is not as round as we think it is. It's one of those flat Earth kind of arguments, and they were making the argument that there are tons of globes. You can't go to a store without finding a globe, and all in that space. So they were trying to make the argument that maybe this is a grander conspiracy, and I thought that was a little bit absurd, and not a lot absurd, but that was the argument that they made, and all along.
No, it's not a conspiracy. When we were talking about food's delicious, but Mark, you can back me up on this. There's food deserts in this country where all you can get is Big Macs or something like that has a lot of calories and no nutrition. And so people are gaining weight and they're still eating because they're not satisfied because there's no nothing that's nutritious in what they're consuming. And it's the same thing with the information that we're getting. We're thinking, who's giving us this information? They have a reason for it. We're getting bad information, left, right, and sideways. Come on. We're not getting information that we can trust. We're not getting food that we can trust. In the old days, we bit into something, we thought we had real ingredients. Who knows what we're eating now?
Jim, some people still can get the food what they like. If you think about diet of Donald Trump and he swallows several hamburgers a day, the man gets the food he likes, right?
Yes.
By the way, he's now flying from New Jersey to Florida, and I'm pretty sure he will eat a few hamburgers on his way.
So, speaking about Trump, quite interesting. He lost his lawsuit, I guess, a week ago, the sexual assault lawsuit, and he's going to refile a new one because he doesn't want to pay her $5 million, and it's going to probably cost him $10 million to fight it. But hey, he's got hard money.
His followers, they feed him a steady diet of funds.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I kid you not. I know, I live in Trump land. Mark and Jacoby do too. So does Nick. Nick learned that it can be dangerous. But the idea of, I was talking to some people and they go, he was raising some money for something. I go, for what? And I forget what it was, but they sent him money. They just sent him money. And I'm like,
he was just in our neighborhood. He was just down in Greensboro and got a rousing ovation and all of that, even though he was saying that the indictments were politically motivated and a lot of the other stuff that he was saying. But he definitely got a lot of support from the Republican base that he was speaking to, since the Republican convention was here recently.
Kim, that's a fair question for any career politician. These people are filthy rich for the most part. They don't need our $1 or $2. Why do people send them money?
And the thing is that they just give him money when they need it. This is what bothers me. They actually need them. Some of them on Social Security and food stamps, and they're sending him whatever they got. And I'm like, they have Trump revivals. I kid you not. You go out into the country out here, they got Trump churches. I went up to Rocky Mount, Virginia, huge Trump banners on the church. Not even American flag flying out there.
Trump is.
I went past this one house out there and it had like 150 like little signs, and it was all, I'm a woman for Trump, I'm a man for Trump, I'm a Trump, and I'm like, I'm gonna send him a trumpet for Christmas.
Kim, have to stop and ask these people why? What inspires them to do this?
Well, because they know that other people hate them. It's all about that. And some of them are very, I hate saying it, but they're just very simple-minded to the sense that it's easier to pull one ticket, but they love Trump. They actually, here's their thing. Well, when he was in office, food was affordable. Well, why do you care? You're on food stamps anyway. But,
so
I can be really mean sometimes.
Honestly,
Trump is the preferred candidate of 55% of Republicans even now. The closest other is DeSantis at 21.5%. Nobody else is above 5%.
Rick, a lot of Democrats. I'm sorry. A lot of Democrats want him also to run because they think that's going to make it easier for their candidate to win the general.
And my dream situation is Trump loses the Republican nomination, but runs third party so he can keep fundraising And we get a 1992 situation again when Ross Perot ran third party and Clinton won in a landslide, even though he only got 42% of the overall vote.
But I mean, who's actually going to be running officially on the Democrat ticket? I mean, who's actually?
No, Biden.
Biden still looks like
Biden doesn't know.
And yeah, he'll be.
Every time they call and ask me to support him or give I'm like, no. You take him off the ticket, I might send some money to the party.
Well, I'm gonna tell you a name that nobody's talked about, and that's Governor Sununu of New Hampshire. Now, he's an old school Republican. He's actually about conservative principles. And the guy just decided not to run. And I was so disappointed because instead of these crazy MAGAs who are just extremists, thinly disguised, and they talk about rhinos, Republicans in name only, the MAGA people are the rhinos. This is
rhinos.
Republicans. They're not the traditional Republicans.
Just to point out,
New Hampshire is, and they won't let him run. You know, it's crazy.
They're not going to let him run because of the bubble that has been created. That's essentially what we're talking about, is that bubble, that echo chamber, everything that got built on that social media and the misinformation and so on and so forth. So, Lee, when you had asked, why do you think they support him? There's a lot of misinformation and the reasons why they support him based off of that misinformation. For example,
Toby, I agree with you, but is it possible that some people support him for intellectual or honest reasons based on good information?
So there, it's
theoretically.
It goes back to, so there are some people that want to support.
I can't like your smile.
In 2016, I think that was true.
Yeah, there are some people that want to support him because of some policy or whatever they want to, whatever they found attractive. But the problem is that one policy brings in so much baggage. So how can you support that one policy and be a one-issue voter, bringing in the racism that brings along with it, bringing in the misinformation, talking about you should shoot yourself up with home cleaning products instead of actually going to a doctor, and like there's an x-ray, some light that goes up under your skin. There's a bunch of baggage that goes with Trump that I think a lot of people dislike, and that's the problem with the Republican Party. That's why they won't let Sununu run or do anything, because that base is in that bubble, and all they hear is that echo chamber stuff. There's a witch hunt. No, technically, these 37 indictments against him, they're serious.
Yes.
But what's bouncing in the echo chamber? Well, it's all political. They're doing this only to the Republican Party. It's all just coming at him these are all lies. He really worked with
Jacoby, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, but do you really believe justice is blind in America today?
No.
So you're trying to.
I'm not excusing anything. I'm asking a question.
Here's the thing. This has nothing to do with the Trump situation. Justice is not blind. Justice is still a work in progress. What's going on with Trump has absolutely nothing to do with your question.
I agree with you. That wasn't my question, Trump. I'm just asking you, do you think people are being treated fairly based on their political views in America today?
Do I think people are being treated fairly based on their political views?
Right.
I don't
think the New York Post wrote an article, I think it was yesterday, Michael Goodwin. Do you think a grand jury has enough information to indict Hillary Clinton based on what James Comey said?
Hold on, Lee. That's a big whataboutism.
That could be. But that's one of many people that he spoke about in the article. It's worthwhile to read the article. There's a lot of going on in America that apparently is one-sided.
Hold on. No, it's not. It's not political.
Doesn't defend Trump. Doesn't say he's not guilty.
I'm being completely honest.
Hillary Clinton had her butt
politically. It is not one-sided.
What about Benghazi?
The grand jury and get the information. What did she have her house raided? Did she have to turn over her server? Did she hand an email? No.
Hold on. What you're doing is you're making a completely different You're taking two different things and saying, "Oh, they're really alike," and they didn't do
They're
this.
totally
They're
different.
No,
totally
I never said anyone did not do anything.
But
Well,
they're
and
totally
at that, and
different.
with Nick Palaveda, your host, who's usually here and had an emergency today. to
Save
take
that, the
care of,
bell.
We're going to have to
Save
wrap
that,
up.
the bell.
We'll continue this conversation next week. Thank you so very much for everyone. And just be
Thank
on the
you for having me.
lookout for another new social media site
Hey,
given
Shaq.
that we can launch in July.
And just as
See you
we had
guys.
lovely
a
debate
great
and lovely discussion, I think we will go out actually with our usual thing, but also we'll hear from the conservative side because we do have a show that is on Friday that is hosted by a conservative. So we're going to hear Jeff Ahern and his thoughts about terrifying emojis and all along those lines. So I was actually putting that up since his show airs every Friday at 1 o'clock. So let's check out what he's got to say about those terrifying emojis.
Hello and welcome to Newsday with Jeff Ahern. I'm your host, Jeff Ahern. Today's top story, Generation Z, a generation made so fragile they make eggshells look like forged steel, now want to cancel your keyboards, or at least the emojis on them. At this point, they should just make a list of the things that don't offend them. It would be a lot shorter. Generation Z includes people born between the mid to late 1990s and early 2010s, a generation that has grown up with technology, but clearly not with testicles. Remember when real men stormed the beaches of Normandy? In the same situation today, Gen Zers would just have started learning German. I'm amazed any of you can walk on two legs without the support of a spine. And if I'm a little angry at Gen Zers, it's because one of the emojis on their hit list is my all-time favorite, the thumbs up. What has an opposable thumb ever done to you outside of giving you the ability to use tools? They call it rude and hostile, even saying they feel attacked whenever they see it in the woke place. You heard me. One Gen Zer said, if I took the time to write a thoughtful message, then you shouldn't be responding with the bare minimum. Ooh, sounds like someone wants a medal for writing an email. And why not? They've gotten medals for everything else growing up. What's that saying? Hard times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. And weak men have a list of emojis that make them cry. On Reddit, some were less offended by the thumbs up emoji, but felt the heart symbol was actually the most inappropriate. One said, to me, the heart is reserved for friends and family. Well, guess what? I just got a reminder email to get my hours in to get paid. So Frank in accounting is getting one. Deal with it. They also don't like the brown swirl emoji. Sounds like someone didn't get enough kisses from Mr. Hanky. I don't know, Gen Z. For a group that hates keyboards so much, you sure are a bunch of strokes.